They called him Janitor. They laughed at his keys, his uniform, the quiet way he moved through marble halls with a mop and a badge that opened every door but none of their minds. For 8 years, Elijah Cole absorbed every smirk, every "hey, buddy," every order snapped like a finger. They thought he didn't matter. They thought he didn't hear. They were wrong. Because the man they mocked for cleaning their floors actually owned the building, the block, and the shell company that paid their bonuses. He chose invisibility the way surgeons choose a scalpel, carefully, precisely, with a purpose no one else understood. By day, Elijah pushed carts and emptied bins. By night, he moved capital. He'd taken a small logistics startup no bank believed in and turned it into the silent backbone of half the city's supply chain, then sold it and folded the windfall into real estate, utilities, and the unglamorous infrastructure everyone forgets until it breaks. He hated the spotlight. He loved seeing who people were when they thought power wasn't watching. At the center of the humiliation was Sterling and Howe, a boutique investment firm dressed in glass and ego. CFO Victor Sterling, expensive smile, generous with tips that felt like leashes, liked to say, everyone stays in their lane. HR Director Madison Clare called Elijah EJ because learning his name required work. Associate broker Tyler Reed filmed TikToks in a lobby mocking service vibes, careful to hide faces but never the contempt. Elijah kept a ledger, not of debts but of character. Who held the elevator? Who tossed coffee into a bin already lined with a fresh bag? Who thanked the night crew by name? Who spoke kindness when no one of status was listening? He noticed grace from compliance slipping plastic forks to the cleaning staff during late nights. He noticed Camila in facilities covering a sick co-worker's shift with no complaint. He noticed Jamal the intern picking up a pen a partner had dropped without being asked, and the partner's failure to notice him at all. What no one knew. The building's ownership had quietly changed hands 6 months earlier. A web of LLCs, Cole Harbor, Elm 47 Holdings, Meridian, had converged under a parent trust with a single signature authority. Elijah wasn't just the janitor. He was the landlord. And for half a year, he'd been renovating systems you couldn't photograph. Air, light, contracts, culture, preparing for one day when the people who measured worth by wardrobe would be measured by something else. The final straw wasn't flashy. Victor spilled an Americano on freshly polished stone and said, without looking up, facilities will get it. He stepped over Elijah's caution sign like it was a suggestion. Tyler laughed and kept walking. Elijah knelt, wiped the stain, and smiled to himself. Tomorrow was the tenants' quarterly meeting. Tomorrow, the janitor would take the mic. He hadn't told anyone. Not the crew who'd become family on night shifts. Not the kind security guard who brought him empanadas. Not the old superintendent who'd taught him how to quiet a screaming air handler with a rubber mallet and a prayer. Invisibility had been the point. Humility had been the armor. And yet, as the clock slipped toward revelation, Elijah felt the weight of every unseen kindness and every loud cruelty. This wasn't revenge. It was truth with consequences. If stories of hidden power and earned justice move you, stay close. What happens when a man the world calls nothing reveals he holds everything? When the keys on his belt open more than doors. When a mop becomes a mirror and everyone is forced to see who they've been. If you're into tales of identity revealed and character tested, make sure you're subscribed because this one doesn't whisper. It lands. Elijah's backstory didn't start with money. It started with a lock. At 12, he learned to pick the busted deadbolt on his mother's apartment because the landlord wouldn't fix it. At 19, he learned to fix the boiler because the super was drunk. He became fluent in how a city breathes, valves and vents, codes and corners, names you called when water turned brown, and names you never said out loud. He got a custodial job at night, studied supply chains during the day, and started a courier route with one van and a promise. On time, every time, no excuses. Everyone told him last-mile logistics was saturated. Everyone was wrong. Elijah mapped the blocks no one wanted, steep hills, no loading zones, neighborhoods algorithmically flagged as inefficient. He hired the reliable guys the big firms ignored, ex-cons with records, but perfect attendance. Annies who could outschedule any COO with a spiral notebook and a Sharpie. Margins were thin, but trust was thick. When the city flooded one spring, Elijah's fleet moved medicine while the majors wrote memos. Hospitals noticed. Contracts followed. Years later, after a strategic sale, he didn't buy yachts. He bought roofs. He bought the levers rich men pull without getting their hands dirty. Easements, maintenance contracts, energy retrofits, debt. He learned that a tenancy lives or dies in footnotes. So he wrote new footnotes, labor protective clauses, harassment penalties baked into leases, vendor KPIs that rewarded dignity as much as speed. He built a machine for decency disguised as a spreadsheet. Then came the tests. Test 1, Grace from compliance. Elijah forgot his ID on a night audit. Grace vouched for him, knowing if she was wrong it could ding her file. He's here every night, she told security. No performative allyship, just risk capital, her reputation on a man with a mop. In the ledger, trust. Test 2, Victor Sterling. Elijah placed an RFP on the tenant portal under a bland handle, seeking input on a discretionary bonus plan reflecting community impact. Victor replied, "Impact is PR, comp tracks revenue." He appended a laughing emoji. In the ledger, extraction. Test 3, Madison HR. Elijah shadowed orientation. When a maintenance temp asked about tuition reimbursements, Madison said, "That's for FTEs in core roles." She didn't look up. In the ledger, hierarchy worship. Test 4, Tyler Reed. Elijah arranged a lost wallet scenario with cash and a key card. Tyler turned in the card and pocketed the cash. Cameras caught it. Eyes pretended not to. In the ledger, opportunism. Test 5, Camila Facilities. Fire alarm at 2 a.m. False but loud. Camila cleared 12 floors solo before the whale stopped. No complaint, no credit. In the ledger, service without spectacle. By the end of quarter, patterns were clear. Not monsters, just people trained by a system that confuses net worth with worth. Elijah didn't want blood. He wanted the building to run on different math. He spent nights with blueprints and bylaws. Wrote a tenant's bill of expectations with teeth. Wage theft in your unit triggers rent escalators to owner, not discounts. Harassment of building staff incurs fines earmarked for a dignity fund. Promotions in building contracts require demonstrable upward mobility for vendor employees. He rebid janitorial at a higher rate on the condition of career ladders and language classes. The winning firm thought he was naive until they saw renewal clauses tied to certified promotions. Meanwhile, he crafted the reveal. Not a gotcha, a gathering. He invited every floor head, every partner, and quietly, every overnight worker who could get coverage. He asked security to leave the back doors open for once. He booked coffee carts with free everything. He placed folding chairs next to leather ones. And he sent one last note to himself, scrawled in the margin of a legal pad. Don't humiliate. Illuminate. The auditorium looked like a merger between a town hall and a quarterly report. Polished stage, harsh downlights, a screen big enough to shame or save. Executives filed in, confident. Night staff clustered near exits, wary. Elijah stood backstage in the same uniform he'd worn for 8 years. Keys at his hip, hand steady. The property manager stepped up. Before financials, ownership has prepared remarks. A murmur. Ownership never spoke. Elijah walked out. First, confusion. Then snickers. Then, as he took the lectern and the lights found his face, silence with edges. "Good morning," he said. "I'm Elijah Cole. Most of you know me as the janitor." A ripple of nervous laughter. "I've cleaned your coffee, your glass, your gum from under very expensive tables. I've heard how you talk when you think only hierarchy is listening." He pressed a clicker. The screen filled with a simple flowchart. Cole Trust, Meridian Property Group, Elm 47 Holdings, this building. This is my trust. 6 months ago, we acquired this tower and 3 adjacent properties. That makes me your landlord. But that's not why we're here. Someone scoffed. Victor's jaw tensed. Madison straightened. Tyler went pale. "We're here," Elijah continued, because buildings don't run on marble and rent rolls. They run on people. And the way we've treated people in this tower is going to change. Slides flipped. Harassment fines funding a dignity pool. Vendor contracts with promotion ratios. Tenant bonuses tied to verified community impact hours. Grievance portals visible to ownership with 48-hour response SLAs. Victor stood. This is performative. Landlords don't dictate our compensation. Elijah nodded. Correct. Landlords dictate leases. Your lease now ties incentives to how you treat the people who make your profits possible. You can leave a term if it offends your brand. A buzz rolled through the room. He gestured to the back. Grace, could you stand? Grace flushed, stood reluctantly. You vouched for a man with no ID at 11:42 p.m. You risked something to protect someone with less power. As of today, your firm receives a rent credit earmarked for a compliance salary adjustment. Use it for her, or explain to your staff why you didn't. He turned to the side aisle. Camila, you cleared 12 floors alone during a false alarm. The new facilities contract includes career ladders, but I'm not waiting for paperwork. Effective now, you're promoted to floor supervisor at 22% raise. You earned it before anyone noticed. Madison's hand shot up. You can't unilaterally promote vendor staff in a tenant meeting. I can unilaterally change my building's contract. And I have. Tyler rose halfway, sat, rose again. What about my wallet? I mean, this is insane. You can't spy on tenants. Elijah's gaze was even. Lawyers vetted the tests. But I'm not interested in embarrassing you. I'm interested in making this a place where you don't learn the hard way that integrity pays. He let the room breathe, then softened. Some of you have been kind when no one important was watching. Security brought empanadas to the night crew in winter. A partner quietly paid a porter's medical bill. A junior associate taught ESL at 6 a.m. before market open. You thought no one saw. I saw. This building will now be shaped by that kind of power. A final slide, a fun name, Keys. 10% of net from these properties will seed apprenticeships for building staff. HVAC licensure, accounting certificates, coding boot camps. If you manage here, you mentor here. If you profit here, you invest here. If you won't, there are other addresses with different values. He unclipped his keys. The clink echoed. These open closets. They also open character. Today, they open a door none of us has walked through before. Join me. Silence. Then chairs scraped. The first to move was not an executive. It was Jamal, the intern. He crossed the room, extended a hand, voice shaking. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Something broke, pride, fear, habit, and the room shifted from defense to possibility. Not for everyone. Victor stormed out. Tyler stared at the floor. But Grace wept. Camila hugged a coworker, and a partner no one expected stepped to the mic and said, "We'll pilot the impact bonuses. Put our name on the list." Revelation didn't roar. It rang like a tuning fork, and people started choosing notes. Change, real change, is ugly at first. 3 tenants gave notice within a month. 2 tried to renegotiate the dignity clauses. Elijah didn't blink. He filled space with firms whose values matched the lease language. Boring companies with quiet margins and long memories for decency. Vacancy dipped, then vanished. Turnover among building staff fell by half. Security incidents dropped 38%. Maintenance tickets spiked. People trusted the system, then fell below baseline with faster fixes and better training. Victor mounted a PR defense. He framed the new terms as landlord overreach, then got loud about anti-business climate. Then a former assistant posted screenshots of bonus emails and optics over outcomes threads. The market didn't cancel him. Worse, it ignored him. The building thrived without him. Madison asked for a meeting. She arrived brittle, left changed. I've been performing care, she admitted. I want to practice it. Elijah offered her the hardest path. Publish salary bands, open pathways from facilities to ops, tie her own bonus to retention among the lowest paid. She gulped and said yes. 6 months later, she presented data that made her cry on stage. People stayed because we finally stayed with them. Tyler didn't transform heroically. He apologized quietly to Camila. He paid back the wallet cash with interest to the Dignity Fund. He started attending the 7 a.m. ESL classes he used to joke about. Redemption for him looked like small, consistent acts that never trended. Grace flourished. With her raise, she cut a second job and finished a certification. She built the grievance portal Elijah dreamed and staffed it with empathy and SLAs. Complaints didn't vanish. They resolved. People didn't stop failing. They started repairing. Keys, the apprenticeship fund, became the heart of the building. A porter became an HVAC tech in 9 months. A night cleaner moved into accounting. A guard switched to tenant ops, and a year later, negotiated a vendor contract with a clause he'd once only hoped someone would write for him. Elijah kept the uniform longer than anyone wanted. "You're the owner," they said. "Dress like it." He did eventually, on days filled with bankers and bylaws. On nights when air handlers coughed and valves complained. He wore navy and carried a flashlight. Not for nostalgia, for calibration. Power feels different when you remember where the switches live. He also wrote letters, not the ledger now, but gratitude. To the old super who'd taught him the mallet trick. To the aunties with spiral notebooks who saved his delivery routes. To his mother, whose hands ached every parent-teacher night. He framed one note above the freight elevator. Character is capacity under load. 1 year later, the building hosted something unheard of, a shared holiday party where suits and steel toes danced on the same polished stone. No cafeteria segregation, no vendor tables. A band, bad karaoke, and a toast from Camila, whose English now needed no apology. To Elijah, she began, then shook her head. No. To the mop that became a mirror. To the keys that opened us. To a building that teaches rich people how to share and poor people how to stop apologizing for value. Laughter. Tears. A partner raised a glass and added, "To profit that doesn't cost our souls." Elijah slipped out early, as always, to check a boiler alarm that was nothing and everything. A system doing its best under winter load. He adjusted a valve, listened for the soft, settling hum that meant tomorrow's warmth was already on the way. Before you go, one favor. What city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments so these hidden billionaire stories find the streets they belong to. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect moment to join a community where power is revealed, character is tested, and redemption is possible. New episodes weekly. Come back for more truth with consequences.